Hello and welcome to the Edge booth. Today we are at Eurosatory. Edge is the Emirati champion in all categories. They have a lot of external growth. They are partnered with the best companies in the world. And today they are involved in naval, aerial drones, land, and munitions. So I suggest a little best of this booth, starting with the HT-100. The HT-100, that's it. It's a drone, a helicopter, and at first glance it doesn't look extraordinary. But first, look at its rotor. You have a double rotor. You know the principle. Normally, traditionally on helicopters, you have the main rotor and you have to have a tail rotor at the back to compensate for the torque. There's another more complicated possibility, similar to Kamov's Soviet helicopters. Here, another system has blades that interlock and pass above one another, eliminating the need for a tail rotor, which can be very dangerous in some situations. This allows you to take off with this drone or helicopter if you make a larger version in a much smaller area. And so here we're dealing with a drone, and we can pretty much put whatever we want inside. That means we can equip it with weapons, sensors, or detectors. It has sensors and a relatively significant autonomy. It can carry a 60-kilogram payload and it will fly like that for 6 hours. So we're talking about a combustion engine. We can send it very far, launch it from ships or from the ground. This is combat from Provenza. In addition, there's enough space underneath to make it a logistics drone. And since it can still fly for 6 hours with this thermal equipment, it's really interesting for making round trips, especially on ships. So mainly ISR and logistics, but obviously eventually it could even carry munitions. What do we see? A small Swiss flag, just as I said. They are from Edge, the Emiratis. They make the best partnerships, they choose the best startups from all over the world, and then they scale up by buying them and they grow externally. So here it's with the Swiss, but this isn't the only one. For example, next to me there's the Shadow 25 now, you might say. It's just a missile, it's just a drone. Well, it's actually a bit of both. Indeed, this is what we call remotely operated munitions, or it's a kind of small missile. The goal is to reach more than 100 kilometers away. But look, what's really interesting is that it's powered by a small jet engine. And here we're not dealing with things that cost a fortune. We're dealing with an effective operational system that flies at 450 km/h and it has inertial navigation. That means if you don't have a GPS signal, obviously. If GPS is lost, we can navigate using the accelerations it detects, allowing it to maintain its position. And now they're in the process of validating optical navigation as well as terminal guidance. If you send it to a fixed position to target, for example, an air defense battery that was spotted by a satellite a few hours ago, you launch it, you go directly to the position, and upon arrival, it will recognize its target with super precision to strike on impact, even when there's no GPS, even when there's no communication to the rear. Next, an interesting aspect is the launch. They are also validating the launch from mobile containers, so from the back of a truck. In other words, you don't have a fixed position that can be detected, you move it, you fire, it reaches its destination, and you've won. And the Shadow 25, there were massive orders in 2023, so today it's something that's operational and deployed, especially in the Emirates. Now we come to the Hunter, the 5 to 10. There are different categories. Here we're talking about a real remotely operated munition, meaning it can be launched out to about 100 kilometers, and the pilot will be able to maneuver it all the way to impact, to have a choice in the decision. Relatively light, only 10 kilos of payload. But what's really interesting is its launch. Here you have the wing folding systems. That means it can be launched directly from a tube, and once it takes off, the tube deploys. So unlike the Shadow 10, which still requires relatively more space or stacking containers on top of each other, here you can simply launch it from a tube. As a result, you can fit a lot more of them. So logically, it has a shorter range than a more complex system. That one had jet propulsion. Here we're using smaller engines, much simpler. So we'll probably be flying at around 250 km/h, but we'll use much less fuel. It's really a remotely operated munition, low cost, and once again, it can be piloted all the way to impact. You can redirect it, change the trajectory, and change the target during flight. If you haven't seen enough yet, well, this is the Phantom Hawk. Here we're really looking at an ISR drone, so theoretically it's an observation drone. What's interesting is that it takes off vertically, and once it has taken off vertically, we have horizontal propulsion with a small engine. This allows for very long endurance. It will stay in flight for hours and hours, all while being able to take off vertically. So these are the simplest systems to operate. It will be used both for border surveillance, for target designation for artillery, and for advanced reconnaissance and intelligence gathering. And why not, since it has a payload that's close to 10 kilo, use it as a communication relay to, for example, launch the hunters I saw earlier. And we could imagine attaching a laser designator underneath it to mark a target, so that one of the bombs I'm about to show you can hit the target. Now we have munitions to be airdropped, ranging from very small ones called mini-bombs. That's not a joke. We're going to increase in size. So here, a little bit above, you have the DS-25 Desert Sting, a bit bigger with a range of a few dozen kilometers. It's still relatively light, so it can be launched, especially by medium-altitude, long-endurance drones. And when we go to the larger size, we move to the Thunder, the P-31, the P-32. These are simply guided glide bombs that we will adapt. We take traditional dumb bombs and put guidance kits on them, and that allows for very significant effectiveness. Just like what the Ukrainians are doing, and all the countries in the world, with American JDAM bombs or with French A2SM. So here you have the Emirati equivalent, and here we're still talking about weapons that are integrated on the Mirage 2000, so they will certainly be integrated on their Rafale in a few years. So that will always make for a bigger arsenal and more munitions for our potential clients all over the world, who can choose from an ever wider range of weapons. And in addition to all the glide bombs I mentioned, you also have the guidance kits for gliding. To glide sometimes dozens and dozens of kilometers, the different guidance systems that can be fitted, so it can be inertial, optical, or laser-guided. All of this allows for a whole class of munitions that are super complementary and above all very modular. That means you don't need to buy a big, very expensive munition. Just use what you need based on the day's mission. I told you there was external growth. It goes a little further with the Brazilians. The Brazilians, that's directly an acquisition of the company SEAD. Here we're talking about an anti-tank missile. For example, it can be launched by a helicopter, by a combat drone, and so on. And SEAD, they also make the Mansup missile. We're not exactly in the same category. It's much bigger. It's an anti-ship missile, subsonic, that can go hundreds of kilometers. It finds its target using radars and jamming systems. And here it's the modernized ER version, in which we have the possibility of using AI, more efficient and autonomous systems, which will shoot farther and consume less. It will be resistant to jamming. It will have its own decoys to avoid being shot down. So we're dealing with very effective systems. And obviously it has already been deployed for years in the Brazilian Navy. They're presenting the new version, now more efficient, resistant, and resilient. We're moving on to the land section, and obviously you have the whole range of munitions, from 40 and everything you can imagine, with shells that can be artillery shells, shells for ships. There's a bit of everything, including smart shells. You also have electronic warfare, jamming to be able to protect your buddies. All of that is integrated onto nice vehicles. Then you have nice radars. Then you have nice optics. There you go. It's pretty impressive, because in reality it's a relatively young company, but thanks to its partnerships they've managed to build a whole ecosystem that's completely complementary. And what we don't see here are also the partnerships in the naval sector, because now they have joint ventures with the Italians from Fincantieri and the Spaniards from Indra. They partner with the French companies Safran and Italy's Leonardo. They have stakes in Milrem Robotics ground robots. As I showed, they have the Swiss company Navia with its small helicopter drone. In Poland, they have the planes from Flaris. They also have the Italian propulsion systems from CMD. And the big news at this exhibition is that now the strategic European headquarters of Edge is located in Paris. Yes, it's in our best interest to build real partnerships with the Emiratis. Their planes are beautiful. They're ours, so that helps too. They integrate a lot of their munitions onto our aircraft. We have real strategic partnerships. So the deepening of everything we can see here between the French and Emirati industries, I really think that's the kind of strategic vision we need to have. We have to push in that direction. That's because at the moment we have a few European partners we can't really work with, and that's not necessarily France's fault. I hope you enjoyed it. In any case, things are still going on here. Edge is really impressive. And from one year to the next, we can really see very, very rapid developments, and I'll see you again very soon.